So, welcome to my video about cobalt yellows, or the real aureolin made from pigment yellow 40, also known as potassium cobalt nitride. And yeah, we will have three alternatives, and we will have the original pigment as well from different brands. We will also take a look at cobalt black, made from PBK 27, that is iron cobalt chromite black. We will have one original one, and we will look at some alternatives. There's also the PBK 13 cobalt, the cobalt oxide black, but that pigment I didn't found anyone offering watercolor from. So we can't swatch it, but I wanted to let you know that there is another cobalt black. And the alternatives we will look from different brands is the iron oxide black. So the funny thing is, when I started to make this video, I realized that Winsor Newton Professional, I heard once that they did a real aureolin made from pigment yellow 40, and I remembered, hey, you bought a Winsor Newton set, a second-hand set a while ago, and then I thought, oh, maybe it's an older one, and I looked it up, and yes, it really contains the real deal, the original pigment yellow 40. I was totally surprised because I thought I'd only have it on some swatch cards, but yes, I I have the real deal in a pan, because Winsor Newton doesn't produce the original one anymore. If you buy now from an aureolin from Winsor Newton, you will get one made from different pigments. So that's why I had to write it down in the empty box, because I didn't realize I have the cobalt yellow when I prepared the paper for the video. So that was a funny surprise for myself. So that said, we will have now three versions of the original cobalt yellow, or also known as aureolin, made from pigment yellow 40. Two of them are from swatch card, so they may appear a lot lighter than the Winsor Newton one we will swatch, but this is only due to that I didn't get so much pigment from the dot cards. When you would buy a pen or a tube from them, they are much more more intensive, like the Winsor Newton one. So that it's only due to the fact that I took them from the dot cards. All brands, I looked it up, Winsor Newton Professional for their old original version, as well as the two companies still offering, there are only two companies offering the real cobalt yellow today. It's cobalt yellow from the Korean company Magello Mission Gold, and you can also buy aureolin made from the original PY40 from Daniel Smith. That are the only brands today which are still offering the original pigment. When you buy an aureolin from any other company, you will get an hue, a look-alike made from different pigments, but not from the real cobalt yellow. The reason why the most companies switched to other yellow pigments is due to the fact even that Winsor and Newton, Magello Mission Gold, and Daniel Smith say or print on their tubes that this color has the light fast rating from 1, so the best light fast rating. It isn't. It isn't light fast. You see on those swatches I took from Dr. Otto Kano's site. I will include her video in the description box below, so you can watch up her video about cobalt yellow, where she swatches all the different cobalt yellows and makes a light fast test on them and how they change from this really transparent, beautiful, bright yellow color to a grayish brownish yellow. I will include it in the, like I said, in the description box. She made a very, very good video about, so I can only recommend looking her video up, or looking up the photos and stuff on her blog. Like I said, I will include the link down below. So the first one I am swatching is the original PY40 from Magello Mission Gold. Like you can read, it's the yellow, cobalt yellow also is known as potassium cobalt nitrate. It is a transparent, lightly staining, intense yellow pigment made in 2 grades by the only restricted manufacturers worldwide, Johnson Matthey in the UK. Light fastness often is rated as good or excellent, but it really isn't, because after a few weeks already, the color is changing to a greenish brownish yellow. So the second one is the Daniel Smith version. That's the one I swatched just now. And the last cobalt pigment, or the last original version we will swatch is the one on the right side I wrote up some moments ago, the Winsor and Newton one. And you will see, because I have much more color to swatch here, that it's much more intense than the first 2 I swatched. But like I said, this is only due to the fact that I have only the dot cards for the other 2. And the funny thing is that normally here in Germany, Daniel Smith is much more expensive than Magello Mission Gold. But the tubes from Daniel Smith, when you buy a 50 milliliter tube, you buy around 15 euros in Germany for the yellow, the cobalt yellow. And the Magello Mission Gold, I don't know why, is super expensive here. I don't know if it's only here in Germany, or if it is that expensive in other countries as well. Because normally here in Germany, Magello Mission Gold is a very cheap artist grade brand, but their 15 milliliter tubes costs around 30 euros, so it's double the price. It's 15 euros more than the Daniel Smith version. So if you really want to buy the original PY40, then I really recommend looking it up in your country, which of those 2 brands is cheaper, because yes, there is a lot of difference in the price. So the first introduction to this pigment as a watercolor was by Winsor Newton in the year 1861. So it's a really long time ago. So I swatched here the Aureolin from Rembrandt. It's a hue made from PY 150, also known as nickel azo yellow. We know this color because most brands offer PY 150. I really, really love this color. And it's a pigment I personally use a lot because next to PY 40, it's one of the very, very few really transparent yellow pigments. Most yellows are more on the semi-transparent, semi-opaque side. So yeah, it's a beautiful transparent yellow, which ranges from brownish to lemon yellow all the way. But if you want it to look like the real aureolin, you have really to water it down a lot because it's a lot darker as the original one. And the one I swatch now is the aureolin hue from Schminke Horadam. It's made from pigment yellow 151, so pigment PY 151. I personally, when I compare the lookalikes to the Winsor Newton one I swatched, would say that the Schminke Horadam hue is the one closest to the Winsor Newton professional or original aureolin. So if I would have to choose one color, which one hue from one brand, I would choose the Schminke Horadam version because it's from the hue the closest to the original one. So the next one here I will swatch is the New Gamboge from Daniel Smith, and you will see that it is a lot darker, a lot more on the orangey side. But the reason I contained it is of the PY 97 it contains. It's made from two pigments. It also contains PY 110, but I looked up which pigments are the most used as a replacement for the PY40, and it is PY 150, PY 110, PY 97, so that are both of the one included in the New Gamboge, and also PY 153. That are the pigments which are mostly used as a replacement in the major brands. So the first discovery of pigment yellow 40 was in the year 1831. And it was introduced, like I said, 1861, so around 30 years later, as a watercolor from Winsor and Newton. It was a replacement for the natural gamboge, which is highly toxic. And that's the reason why they stopped using it. And it was NY24, so natural pigment yellow 24, also known as Indian yellow. And yeah, so they replaced it. The cobalt pigments are also slightly toxic, but not as toxic as the original gamboge one. And then they replaced the aureolin in most brands today because of the poor light fastness rating. And also because cobalt pigments are a lot more expensive than other pigments are. So they have done it because of financial and also of light fastness rating. Light fastness rating. When you buy today from Mijello Mission Gold or Daniel Smith a tube of cobalt yellow, they say it has the best light fastness rating, and that is just not true. So please be aware that the color will transform into this grayish brownish, not so nice color. So this the next one, we will take a look at the Cobalt Black. I have here the tube from Mijello Mission Gold. That's the only brand offering Cobalt Black. cobalt black, this one is made from the PBK 27 iron cobalt chromite black, like I wrote down here. There's also the pigment black 30, PBK 13, black cobalt oxide, which also is one of the black cobalt pigments, but I couldn't find any brand offering or any handmade artisan offering PBK 13 watercolor. So I only wrote it down so that you are aware there is a second cobalt black, but I couldn't find any. So we will firstly swatch the genuine cobalt black, and then we will take a look at alternatives, because if you want a granulating black, then you can either go for the cobalt black, which is surprisingly the least expensive cobalt pigment. When I looked prices up here in Germany, then I found out that it is sometimes even cheaper to buy the cobalt black from Magello Mission Gold than to buy a black iron oxide from some brands. I don't know why, because normally cobalt pigments are very expensive, but here there is a difference to the other cobalt pigments. So if you want granulating black, you can either go for the cobalt black or for the black iron oxide. And if you are on a budget, then I recommend looking up different brands of offering the black iron oxide, and also looking up what you pay at your place for the real cobalt black, for example, and then you can choose the best deal for you. I have contained 4 versions of black iron oxide from different brands. 3 of them are artist grade from Daniel Smith, Schminke Horadam, and Rembrandt. Rembrandt and Van Gogh are both from the Netherlands company Royal Talents. Van Gogh is the student grade version. It's the only student grade I included here. So the first one I swatch is the black iron oxide from Daniel Smith. They call it Lunar Black. So you will find the black iron oxides under the name Lunar Black, Mars Black, or black iron oxide or oxide black, depending on which brand you are buying. So that's a bit confusing, like in some like with some other pigments as well. Different brands have different names, so you need to look up the pigment, which is always for these colors the pigment black 11 PBK 11. So for our real cobalt blacks, I have some little information found in the internet, which I want to include as well. For the PBK 13 black cobalt oxide, I found out it has the highest light fastness rating, and it is more a grayish black than a deep black. So the next one I am swatching is the Mars black from Schminke Horadam. I have it in one small palette, which I showed just now. It is the Frau Hölle summer box. It's a special box from Schminke. And the next one we will be swatching is the Van Gogh one. And the surprising fact is that this Frau Hölle Schminke Horadam tin and the Van Gogh 48 set are the only sets I found which are containing as their black, the black iron oxide, because most starter sets, for example, use for me absolutely hated I, ivory black. I hate this black. It's a warm black, and I don't like warm blacks. I like neutral or cool blacks much more. So most starter sets contain the ivory black, but not the Van Gogh 48 set. This is containing um, the PBK 11, which is was very surprising, but in a good way for me personally. If you are on a budget, then and you want a granulating black, then I would go for the Van Gogh oxide black, because it's the cheapest you can get. I can only say the prices now in Germany. I can't look up for all countries, but here in Germany, a pan of Van Gogh is €2. It's a half pan, so it's around 2 milliliter. Or you can buy the tube, which contains, I think, 7 milliliters, and it's €3. So the best deal you can get is the tube, because it's only here in Germany, it's only €1 more, but it's more than 3 times the milliliters in it. So yeah, that was the both of the Rembrandt version, the Van Gogh, and the Royal Talents version. Sorry, the first one was the Van Gogh, and the second one was the Rembrandt one. So one small information I found about the PBK 27. I realized when I was looking up all the pigments, all the cobalt pigments, then the less companies are offering the pigment, the less information you can get on the internet. And the only thing I found out about the PBK 27 is that it's iron cobalt chromite black, created by high temperature and calcination of a mixture of oxides of ferrin, iron, cobalt, um, ferric iron, and chromium in varying amounts, and that this creates a spinel for crystalline matrix. That's the information I wrote down. So yeah, I don't know if you can really. I don't understand everything from that. I'm honest. I'm I'm not, but maybe you can or you can't, like me. I don't know, but that's the only information I found out about the PBK 27. So I hope that this video has given you some new information, some maybe some help to decide which color or from which brand you want to buy. Of course, the PBK 11 are nearly offered in every brand, so depending where you live and which brands you can get there, the prices differ and the shades may differ a bit. But yeah, I hope you also can see how the original cobalt yellow looks like, and maybe decide which shade or pigment suits you personally best for an light fast alternative. I will make different videos as well to the other parts of the cobalt family, and I already have the overview video for all the different pigments which are part of the cobalt family. I can put the link for that video in the description box below as well. So if you are interested in seeing what pigments are part of the cobalt family and how do they look like, that video contains also a little swatching. Then you can look this one up. And I will continue this series with a video about the cobalt green, the cobalt violets, the cerulean blues, and the cobalt blues and cobalt turquoises as well. So we will do a lot of swatching in those videos. And because that are all pigments which are offered by much more companies like cobalt black or cobalt yellow, we will have a lot more brands for comparison, and you can see that some pigments, even if it's the same pigment, that the shades are very different from brand to brand. So I hope that will be interesting and helpful as well for you, and maybe contain some more information about the pigments which you don't know. If you give me a thumbs up, oh God, sometimes I really, yeah, struggle with talking. Doesn't matter if it's English or German. So if you give me a thumbs up or a follow, that would be very much appreciated and will help me a lot in creating more informative videos, because yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to give all the information I know and I found out to everyone here for free, so that you can learn more about pigments and watercolor. And yeah, thank you very, very much for watching, and I hope you will have a wonderful day wherever you are.